this is Shelly from Koala Knits, and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful blanket. It is a double layer of thickness, very, very warm. I've got my fireplace on in the back and I'm just sitting here just enjoying. Not really, it's very warm outside. I'm actually very, very hot right now. Can't wait till winter now so that I can make use of a blanket this thick and luxurious. However, this one's going as a gift, and I am calling this blanket the it's hip to be square blanket. You know that song, it's hip to be square. That's what I was thinking when I made this. So it's hip to be square blanket. This blanket measures 60 by 66 inches. That's not including the fringe. The fringe on both ends are 6 inches, so add another 12 inches to that if you include the fringe in your length. I used 6 balls of this Craft Smart yarn, 6 balls of this Cornflower color. I used 4 balls of the light blue, and I used 2 1/4 balls of the gray. It looks like it's a tan or like a taupe color in here, but it's actually a very light gray, and it looks beautiful with these 2 colors. So that's how much yarn it takes to make this blanket. I hope you enjoy this tutorial, have fun making it, and I look forward to seeing your projects posted on some of the groups that we're on. So take care and join me as we go on. I used the Addi King machine for this blanket. Oh, you saw my toes there. I used the Addi King to make this blanket. But you know what? You could if you have like a smaller machine like the Sentro 40, you could do the exact same pattern, I'm sure, and it would probably work. Only difference is that it might make your squares more rectangle because the width is a little bit narrower for the amount of rows that I've used for each square. But you can give it a go, and as long as you follow the same number of rows throughout every panel, you'll still be okay. It'll come out looking maybe a little bit different, maybe a little bit more rectangle in shape, but it'll still be beautiful. So if that's the machine that you have, go ahead and give that a try as well. One more thing I wanted to mention is I have done the braided join on this blanket, but you could also do the invisible join or whatever join that you would choose to do. Because this is for a young girl in her late 20s, I just decided I was going to soften it up a little bit and put the braided join, and I actually really, really love it. So anyways, thank you for joining me on this tutorial. I hope you have fun, and we'll see you soon. Okay, so now that we've got our supplies ready, it's time to get started. And so we're going to need waste yarn at the beginning and the end of every panel. So I'm going to bring my last white needle and my first black needle in line with my yarn feeder. And I always mark the little red peg between those 2 needles with a permanent black felt marker so I know it's coming around. It looks like I need to redo that because it's rubbing off. Guess that tells me my machine is being used really well. So, okay, so for a waste yarn, you want to take a contrasting color. You're going to put it behind the first black needle and in front of the next, behind and in front, alternating all the way around. Make sure you have good tension on your yarn ball, even though it's the waste yarn, because when you start adding your first row of good yarn, you don't want that to get all wonky. So I try to keep it consistent whether it's waste yarn or whether it's working yarn. That's one. I generally do 7 or 8 rows. 2. That's 3. 3 that I'm working on. It clicked. Now I'm working on 4. 5. Oh, this yarn is nice in my machine. So maybe consider doing something with this color. 6. I've only used it for, actually I think I made a beanie with it a while back. And I think that's good. This is 7, but before I get to the end of the row, I'm going to change my yarn counter, my row counter to 0s. I like to have it at 0 before I start my project, so then when it clicks on 1, when I'm starting my first row, then I know that that's the row I'm working on. So that's how I like to do it. Okay, so then I'm going to cut my waste yarn. I'm going to grab my working yarn. I'm going to use the Cornflower blue for my border because it's the darker color of the 3 that I've chosen, and the lady that I'm making this for loves a darker blue. Now that's not considered a dark blue, but it's the darkest of the two that I've chosen. Okay, so we're going to take the end of our working yarn. We're going to put it between that last white needle and the first black needle, just like we did with our working yarn. I've already set my counter to 0 when I was halfway around my last round of waste yarn. And now I'm going to hold those two tails, do 3 or 4 needles. Generally I have 3 done, and then I pull on it. If you noticed, it went underneath this little red divider there. And again, I mentioned this in every video. I do that because then when I take my project off of my machine, the first few stitches in every row of color change that I do is not looser than the rest. It's the same tension. So I habitually do that for every row. Okay, so this is considered panel 1. If you're writing down this pattern, mark that down. This is panel 1. And we have 9 panels to do in this blanket. Panel 1 and panel 9 are exactly the same. So you're going to need 2 of these. Then take a little sticky note or however you choose to mark it. And when you're done these 2 panels, I'm not going to do the panels in order that they come in the blanket. I'm going to do every panel, four different panels have a duplicate. So we're going to do our duplicates each time, and then we'll assemble at the end. You'll understand what I mean once we get there, but go ahead and use this working yarn and knit up 297 rows. So crank out 297 rows of this color, and then once you get to about row 50 or so, 55, 60, somewhere in there, pop back on and see where I'm at. And I'm going to show you what I do with my tube when once it gets long and it starts to touch the table. If you already have your own technique, then just keep going until you get to row 297, and you're going to make 2 panels exactly like this. But when we get to row 297, I'm going to come back on and I'm going to show you how I cast off. Okay? So see you when you're done that. Have fun! I am at row 58. I went a little longer than I normally do, just so that I could show you why we stop and do this in case you weren't aware. You see, as it starts to touch the table, you see the little bowing that happens up here. It gets really loose up here, and that's when you risk dropping a stitch. So if this gets too loose because it's bunching up, then it could fall off these 2 little teeth, and when it does that, you've dropped a stitch. So and also it changes the tension around the barrel here. We want to have a tight, snug tension throughout our project so that it just looks so much nicer on the other side. I'm loving this yarn because if you can see clearly in the video, my stitches are perfectly even, and I'll just let you know, I have a slight tension. I hold it between my fingers just like this, and I have a very slight tension. Sometimes I put it through my fingers like this when I don't want any tension at all, and it just slips through there. But for this one, I'm putting just a very minimal tension on it. I prefer that with this yarn. For some reason, it's just what's working for me. So sometimes you'll know by the feel of it. I like how my stitches are coming out, so I know my tension is correct. Okay, so I'm going to take it from the bottom and I'm going to roll it up. Loving this color too. Man, this cornflower blue is beautiful. It's Craft Smart yarn again. So if you're liking the color, go see if you can pick yourself up some. Okay, and then you roll it, and every time it gets to not necessarily when it touches the table now, when it gets halfway down, I'll start rolling again, so that I keep my tension around my barrel here the same. It gives you more even stitches, and again, it prevents it from slipping off of these little teeth. So there you go. Now, if you are at the end of your ball, because you're doing 297 rows, and so there's a pretty good chance that you're going to come to the end of your ball and you're going to need to do a yarn change. You'll do it the same way we changed with the waste yarn to the working yarn. There is one slight difference though. You don't, when you're changing colors throughout the project, you always have to do it at the beginning between that last white needle and the first black needle. But when you're on the same color and you run out of yarn, it doesn't matter where you change it on your machine. So if I know I've only got like 6 inches left and I'm at this point on my machine, then I just cut it off and I change it right here and there on the machine because I'm using the same color. And so then I would cut this off in the center, or leave my tail in the center there. I would grab the same color of yarn that I'm using. I would feed it in through my yarn guide in between these two needles, the same two needles that I put the end in. And then I continue just like I normally would, doing 3 or so needles. Then I take both of those, or then I take the working yarn and from both ends, and I tighten it a little bit just so it evens up, snugs up the stitches on the first few. And then I keep going like normal, and then after 3 or 4 rows, I take those 2 yarn ends and I tie a tight knot. And then I just keep going like normal. So again, you don't have to worry about what position on the barrel that you're changing if it's the same color. When you do a color change that's different colors, you always start at the last white peg and the first black peg. Okay, hope that helps. So how is everybody's arm feeling? I knit this straight and I'm at row 297, just finishing up now, going to bring my last white needle and my first black needle in line with my yarn guide. Then I'm going to cut off my working yarn, open my guide, stick it into the middle of my machine. Then I'm going to take my waste yarn, put it in my yarn feeder, into the center between those same two needles, hold it, both ends, do 3. On the end you really don't have to do this, but again, it's a habit, so I always pull it tight. And it's a habit so that I don't forget when the time comes that I actually need to do it. So yeah, so then I'm going to crank out 7 or 8 rows of waste yarn, whatever you're most comfortable with, you can do. And then I'm going to just remove it from my machine. I've got my waste yarn on. You know, sometimes our waste yarn can give us some inspiration because I love this cornflower blue with this goldish color. I don't know what the name of this color is because I use this ball as waste yarn, but you know, I could easily find it if I go back to the store. But I love these 2 colors together. I think it would make just an amazing looking blanket. So I'm going to keep that inspiration in my little mind and use it for future. Okay, so then I'm going to cut that waste yarn, put it into the center of my machine, and I'm going to crank. Now on the second time around, it lets loose of your machine. So there we go. We have our beautiful donut. I'm going to unroll this and stretch it out in all directions, and I'm going to close up the ends. For the sake of this video, because it can get so long, I'm not going to close up the ends with you on this particular video, but if you go to go to my channel and look at my videos, you will see one that's how to close the end of a panel with a flat edge. And I show you how to do that. So you're going to close the ends of both of these. So again, take this and mark it as panel 1. Now go ahead and make the exact same thing again and mark it as panel 9. And then you'll have your first and your last panel done. Okay? So, oh, I just love these donuts and they're so big. They're just so cool. Got to figure out something to do with a donut. Maybe that's just a nice head pillow or something when you're laying even on the airplane or something, you stick your head in there. Wouldn't that be like just a cool idea? So got to come up with an idea for these little donuts because I love them. So anyways, go ahead, make another one exactly like this. Mark it panel 1 and panel 9 and close your ends, and then we will move on. Moving right along, we're going to work on panels 2 and panel 8. They're both identical. So we're going to cast on with our waste yarn like we did in the beginning. I'll do this quickly. Knit 7 or 8 rows of waste yarn and then meet me back. I'm coming up on my last row. I am on my last row. This is row 33. And I'm going to come to my last white needle, my first black. I'm going to cut this yarn, open my yarn feeder, put it in the middle. Then I'm going to take my light blue color. I'm going to change colors here. Take my light blue color, put it in through my feeder, hold both ends, crank out 3 or 4 needles, then pull that. I'm going to wait till I do 3 or 4 rows before I tie that tight. But from this point on, now that I have this in here, my yarn guider counter just clicked onto sorry, my yarn counter just clicked on to 34, and I'm going to let it just keep counting until I get to 264 rows. So I'm going to crank and crank and crank until I get to 264 rows, and then I will see you back and we'll do another color change. Okay? All right, happy cranking, my friends. I thought I'd pop on real quick just to show you that sometimes yarn gives you a lot of trouble, and you'll see that when I hold this up, it's wider here than here because, and I'll fix that later. I'll straighten it out with my pick, and I'll go my loom pick, and I'll straighten them out. But I had some twisted stitches and some drop stitches. I think about 7 scattered throughout this project that I just took a deep breath and fixed one by one, ripping down the seam and fixing it all the way up. And I just see, here's another one right there. And sometimes that does happen. It's just the yarn gives you some trouble, and you need to just take a big breath. And I was just thinking as I was fixing it, do I rip it out and start over? And I thought, no, I'm just going to take the time to fix each row, make it beautiful, and then I'll stretch it out and even out the tension once I take it off of my machine. And you know what, I just thought about the person that this blanket is for. She's just a sweet young lady in her late 20s, has struggled with so many different medical issues, and she is the most positive, hopeful person I have ever met in my life. Like, I'm not kidding you. She's comes from a very difficult family, and when she was younger, and just has many, many struggles. So sometimes when you're making a blanket, it's not just about cranking and knitting. It's about the person, and it's about the love that you put into it. So I just had that thought as I was knitting this, and thought I would share it because I know that you, my friends, many of you, when you're knitting, you have the same situations, and it helps to just think on the person you're making it for, and to just pause and take your time. And sometimes some panels will take a lot longer than others, and that's okay. It's just part of the process. So be encouraged and keep going. I'm going to still make it to my 264th row, and I'm going to finish row 264. And by the way, from the first 33 rows up to 264, it's 231 rows. So I'm doing 231 rows of this color, which will take me up to 264. So just thought I'd pop on and share that little tidbit with you. Hope you're doing well with your projects. Talk to you soon. Okay, that was definitely a challenge. I had a few more tucked stitches and one more drop stitch. But I worked through it and I got it done, and it actually looks beautiful. I did find that, that the faster I went, the less trouble I had. So sometimes it's the opposite. So you really have to feel out your yarn. This time, the faster I went, the less it snagged, and the less it got caught around these red 2 teeth, and then the better product I got. So I'm going to just finish up row 264. Then I'm going to cut my working yarn, open my yarn guide, put it in the middle between the last white and the first black. I'm going to take my first color, which was my Cornflower, the one that I started my first 33 rows with, and I'm going to end with 33 rows. So I'm going to do 33 rows until I get to 297. Again, 3 or 4 rows, tightening that. After 3 or 4 needles, then tightening that. Now I'm going to do 3 or 4 rows, and then I'll tie it. And I'm going to crank until I get to 297, which again is 33 rows. So I'm going to do that, then I'm going to add waste yarn and take it off. So I'll see you back when it's time for the waste yarn. I'm just finishing up row 297. Then I'm going to cut that yarn, open my yarn guide, put that in the middle between the last white, the first black, then I'm going to grab my waste yarn again. I love these 2 colors together. I made a baby blanket in these 2 colors. So actually, that's not true. I made a baby blanket in the Cornflower, and then there was, what was it called? It's a Craft Smart yarn too, but it's a really soft blue, and I liked that together too, but I'm really liking this contrast together as well. So this is the first time I'm actually making this pattern. I designed it in my book, and
and thought I would video it as I make my first blanket. So we're making this for the first time together. Haven't decided what I'm going to call it yet. I might call it the Katie blanket because that's what I'm making it for, or I might call it the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 square blanket. We'll see by the end of this video, and then you'll know. So I'm going to do 7 rows of waste yarn. And once I do 7 rows of waste yarn, I'm going to cut my end, put it in the middle, and crank for 2 rounds, and my product will come off the machine. So there we have our donut that's removed from the machine. This is going to be panel number 2, and you are going to make another one exactly like this, and that will be panel number 8. And when you're done that, then you'll have 4 of your panels done, and then we'll move on to panel 3 and panel 7, which are exactly the same. Okay, so unwind this. Oops, I caught my waste yarn on the, that's why you do a lot of rows of waste yarn, because I just caught that on the needles and it unraveled. So now I'm gonna go and catch those with my needle and some yarn before it unravels all the way down. So good lesson, that's why you do a lot of rows. Okay, so I'm gonna go and fix that. But you're gonna unroll this, you're gonna stretch it out widthwise and lengthwise, and then you're going to close up the ends. And again, if you don't know how to do that, then just go to my video that explains to you how to do that. And then we'll move on to the next set of panels, all right? All right, so let's check where we're at. We've done panel 1 and panel 9 in our first color, and it's a solid panel. Now I put this on the floor and I measured it out, and it's exactly 6 feet long. So that's wonderful. It's just such a great length. Okay, it's the same length as the other blankets, the gingham adult blankets that I made, so it works out perfectly. Then we made 2 of these. This was panel 2 and panel 8, where we started with 33 rows of our dark color. Then we did 231 rows, which of our mid-tone color, and then we did another 33 rows of our dark color, which took us to 297 rows on that 2nd and 8th panel. Now we're gonna do our 3rd and 7th panel. I got it started for you already. I started with my dark color, did 33 rows of that. Then I changed colors. I did 33 rows of my light blue color. And now I'm going to go ahead and add my 3rd color, which is gray. And I'm going, well, I should finish this row first. This is my last row, row 66, because I did 33 of each color. So now that's row 66. I'm gonna cut that yarn. I'm going to put it in the center there. I'm gonna roll this up. I just unrolled it so I could show you. I'm gonna roll that up, then I'm gonna add my gray, which is my 3rd color. This looks gray in this picture because of the lighting here, but it's actually cornflower blue and it's beautiful. Maybe next to this gray, it's gonna look more like its natural color. So I did 33 colors of my 1st color, 33 colors of my 2nd color. Now I'm going to do 165 rows of my gray color, and that will take me to row 231. So if you're letting your counter just keep adding, mine is on number 66 now. I'm going to let it keep going until I get to row 231, and I'm going to finish that row. That's and that will then be 165 rows of this gray color, my 3rd color. And then I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna do 33 rows of my 2nd color, which is my light blue, and then finish off with 33 rows of my cornflower blue. Okay, so again, to recap, 33, 33, 165, 33, and 33. That comes to 297 rows. Finish off with waste yarn. Do 2 of those panels, and that will be panel 3 and panel 7. You can mark that in your book, and I'll see you back when we're done. Now, if your arm isn't sore yet, then you must be lifting weights or strengthening your arms. Especially if you're taking long periods of time to knit. Maybe you might be doing a panel or 2 and then stopping and doing it again, but I've just been giving her because I've got actually a few blankets on order and I got to get them done. But anyways, this is the 3rd panel that we've done, and we've got our cornflower blue, our light blue, and gray, and whatever colors yours are. So you see what this one looks like, okay? So then this is the gray that's twice as, well, it's quite a bit longer. And then we go down to the end here. And there's the end of that panel, and we've got 2 of those. Okay, so it's starting to work up nice. You might be tempted to say, forget about the blanket, I'm going to use this as a scarf because this looks so pretty. You put a fringe on that and wrap it around your neck and you've got a really nice scarf. So just an idea for a scarf. Once you're done your blanket, you might want to follow some of these rows in and make yourself a scarf or 2. So we are working on our 4th panel change. And so this is panel 4 and panel 6 that we're doing. Both of these panels will be the same. So I've started for you, started with my dark color. We always start with that. Then I moved to my light color, so 33 rows, 33 rows. Then I moved to my gray color, 33 rows. Then I'm going to move back to my light color. Pardon me, to my dark color, to my first color that I did, and I'm going to do 99 rows, okay? So let me recap. Start with my cornflower with my dark color, or your color number 1, do 33 rows, then do color number 2 and do 33 rows, do color number 3 and do 33 rows, then you're gonna go back to color number 1 and you're gonna do 99 rows. And on your counter, that will take you to 198. So again, you're going to now do 99 rows of your first color, okay? Then after that, you're going to just reverse what you just did. So then you're going to do 33 rows of your light color. Then you're going to do 33 rows of your medium color and 33 rows of your dark color. So you're just going to go opposite. So once you now do 99 rows, you're going to do 33 of this gray, then 33 of the blue, and 33 of the cornflower. So just so that it's opposite. So when you cut your panel in half, it mirrors the other half. So you probably have figured that part out by now. But that's what you're going to do for this panel. And you're going to do 2 of those, and that will be panel 4 and panel 6. So again, you're going to do 33 rows of your dark color. So write this down in your notebook. 33 rows of your medium color, 33 rows of your light color. Then you're gonna do 99 rows of your dark color. Then you're gonna do 33 rows of your light color, 33 rows of your medium color, and 33 rows of your dark color, and that will take you to 297 rows. So you got this, ladies. We only have 1 more panel to do. After we do 2 of these, we just have number 5 to do, and you only do 1 of those. So we are coming to the end. So all the best as you continue knitting. I'll see you soon. Well, now that you're done panels 1 and 9, 2 and 8, 3 and 7, 4 and 6, we've just got 5 left, and I went ahead and I did it. Instead of going on the machine and explaining like I did the other panels, I just went ahead and did it so I could show you. So you're gonna start with 33 rows of your dark color, then 33 rows of color number 2, your mid-tone color, if that's how you choose to do it. 33 rows of your light color. Then you're going to do another 33 rows of color number 1. 33 rows of color number 2, 33 rows of color number 1, 33 rows of color number 3, 33 rows of color number 2, and 33 rows of color number 1. Yay! This panel looks so great. So again, well, you can start from either end. So all of these squares are 33 rows. So you start with color 1, 33 rows, color 2, 33 rows, color 3, 33 rows. Then you do color 1, 33 rows, color 2, 33 rows, color 1, 33 rows, color 3, 33 rows, color 2, 33 rows, and color 1, 33 rows. And that is your 5th panel. And again, this would make just like an awesome scarf. I really think that it would. All these colors blend so beautifully together, and if you wanna, if you have extra yarn, go ahead and make yourself a scarf. Same amount of rows, same pattern, same everything. Add a fringe to each end and you've got a scarf. So there, this is two tutorials in one. So there you have it. That's panel number 5. Now all we've got to do is to put them all together. You've got them all numbered, so that should be no problem. I'm going to put one panel together with you, just part way through. You know, I thought of doing the no seam, like when you sew the seams, it's a hidden seam and you don't see anything, any seam. It's just completely connected with no break in the fabric. I thought of doing that, and then I thought, you know what, this is for a young lady. Maybe I'm going to soften it up a little bit and do the braided stitch. So I did the braided stitch, and it's beautiful because I've already put 4 or 5 panels together. Of course, or 4 panels together, but of course you've seen it because the completed thing is at the beginning of the video. This is in the making stage, of course, but I do love the braid. I think it just softens it and makes it just very pretty. So anyways, let's go ahead and start joining. So congratulations, you've made it past the panel making stage, which can take some time, especially when the blanket is as big as this one is. But so much joy when you see it put together. I've put together every panel so far except for the last one. I just wanted to leave it so I could do it with you. Okay, so you will notice on our blanket, you've got your blanket numbered. As we went along, you had all your panels numbered. So I am doing my last panel. So make sure that when you are assembling it that you don't get your panels mixed up, because that's so sad when you have to rip a panel down. When you have to find the ends that you've hidden and rip a panel down. That's happened to me actually, and replace it. So make sure that you even lay it out on your bed and do 1 panel at a time, just to make sure that you're getting the same panels, in the right panels in the right order. Okay, so there is a right side and a wrong side to this braided join. This is the right side. You see it's very prevalent, and you see the V's, I call them V's, but the lines are going down like this on every panel. And that's because, and of course if you flip it, they're going up, but when you're working, when you're adjoining your panel, you want to make sure that they are going like this, going down. And that's the top edge that you're going to start working your blanket on. Another thing you could do is put a safety pin along the top of your panel and just move it along as you go, so that you know that that's always the end that you're going to start sewing on. Because if you start sewing on the other end, the right side of the braid is going to be on the other side, and the V's are going to be going down the other way. So you want it to be uniform all the way down your blanket. So put a safety pin or something there, marker, where you know that this is the end of your blanket that you always start on, okay? So, and then also, you'll notice that you always have an end that, on your blanket that you finished your work off with. Oops, it's falling off the table here because it's so heavy. You want to, you don't want to line up those 2 ends like that, so you have so that you have two long ends like this, because you use that to sew the very top together, and I'll show you that as well. But you're going to place your 2 ends together. I always make sure that the wide part of the V is going down. I'm going to just move my camera down so that it's closer. 1 second. Okay, so hopefully that helps. So you're going to make sure that when you choose your side, when like it naturally goes to a side, and sometimes that side has the point of the stitch that's going down, just like that. So I always just give it just a half a stitch turn, just so that I have the wide part of the V going down on both ends. Now, I don't know if that's something that has to be done, but I just think it makes for a nicer finished product. So that could be in my head, but I think that it makes a difference. So there you go. So you line up your 2 ends so that the wide part of the V is going down. And then I don't start at this one or this one. I usually start at this one, second or third, depending on how tight it is, because I'm going to thread my end, and I'm going to sew this tight up at the top anyway, so I don't worry too much about starting my braid there. So I'm gonna choose. Let's see what one looks good here. I could probably get into the second one here. So I'm going to go between the two sides of that stitch and pick up that bar that's in the middle. And it's going to be on my hook, and I'm going to go across to the second stitch on the other side, and I'm going to pick up the bar that's in the middle, and I'm going to take it through the loop that's on my hook. Okay, then I'm going to go, okay, so you see where this is the stitch that it's coming out of. So I always count that as one and then move down to the next. It's just how my visual works for me. So 1, 2, pick up that bar, take it through, go across to the other side. 1, 2, pick up that bar, put it through your work. 1, 2, pick up that bar through your work, and go all the way down just like that. Again, if you want to see this, just this, then go to my video if you need to look at it again. Okay, and go all the way down. I'm gonna take this down to the color change with you, just so that you can see how I make sure that my panels, my color change, and my lines all line up. Okay, so you just keep going down like that. 1, 2. This little end's getting in my way. 1, 2. And once you get the hang of it, you're gonna fly through it. So they don't take long to put to seam up at all. But you wanna make sure that you're staying on the same row, that you do not twist your blanket and go to maybe this row. You wanna stay on that same seam that's going all the way down. Now, if you've done, like I mentioned in every video, if you've counted your rows when you've made your panels and you have the exact same amount on every panel, then this should line up from top to bottom. Sometimes you'll look at your panels and one will be way longer than the other. That's only because of the way you've stretched it out after you've taken off your machine. If you've done the same amount of rows on each panel, then as you work it down, it's going to pull it together, and it will be the right, it should be the right length. I've never had to shorten a panel because it was longer. It might have looked longer when I laid it flat on the ground, but it had the same amount of rows, and when I worked it up, it pulled it together. So don't worry about that. Okay, so because this is an end panel, you're not going to see how I make my seams completely match up, so you will want to go look at my other video for that. But let's just say that this was the color change here as well. Then I made sure, instead of going 1, 2, I just would do 1. 1 there and 1 there. Just so that my lines completely matched up. Now, if it took 2 stitches to get to the match up on this one panel, then I would do one stitch there and count 2 on this side, and then I would make it up on this side and count 1. Maybe further down, just miss 1 stitch and then 2 on that side. I hope that makes sense to you. Again, go look at my other video and you'll see that in more detail, because I explain it, how to make a completely straight seam on that video. So continue your work all the way down, and when you're at the end, I'll see you and show you how I finish it off. Okay, so we're up at the end here. I'm almost done, and so I'm just going to continue. I pulled that one a little loose, but it'll straighten itself out. It's okay. Making sure that you don't twist that very end part. Okay, and so I have 1 stitch left at the top, but I'm going to go ahead and yarn over my tail end, bring it through the loop that's on my hook, pull it through, and then I'm going to grab my needle. So when you're taking your project off your machine, your panels off your machine, leave a little bit longer of a tail. It's kind of too late now because you've got them all done, but for your next blanket, if you found that you didn't leave a long enough tail, then you'll just join a piece of yarn here and finish it off. But I just go around twice from the loops under the top stitch of one panel and the top stitch of the other panel. Pull it tight, and then I get a straight seam. See, that's perfectly straight. Well, almost perfectly straight. Then I will just tie a knot. I'm gonna do that off camera because this is a bit short and it's a little bit finicky to do on camera. So I tie a knot and I do another knot actually, and then I hide it underneath here. Or I hide my end like you would on any project. But if you choose to do a fringe, like for me, I hide it just once. I don't go back and forth because my fringe is gonna go over top of this and secure it. But if you choose not to do a fringe, then just go back and forth a couple times so this doesn't come loose, okay? So you have that option. You can do a crochet edge, you can do just leave it like this, which is absolutely beautiful, or you can add a fringe. And for me, I have decided to add a fringe. I've got it started already, and we're going to go ahead and do that next. So if you want to add a fringe to your project, then continue following me on this video. If you do not want to add a fringe, then you've completed your blanket, and I congratulate you because it was a big one, and I'm sure it looks absolutely beautiful. So yeah, join me for the fringe, and we'll get started on that right away. There is absolutely nothing fancy about how I make my fringes. This is a 6-inch wide piece of cardboard that I cut off of a box, literally. And I make it long enough because I like to make a lot of fringes at one time. And so get a piece of cardboard 6 inches long, or however long you want your fringe to be. Now, of course, when I wrap it around, it's gonna make a 12-inch piece of yarn, but then you fold your yarn in half to make your fringe and it goes back to 6 inches. So I like a 6-inch fringe on my blanket. So then I take my yarn end from my ball. I hold the end with my thumb. I literally wrap and wrap and wrap. Oops, now my camera stand is in the way. And I wrap and I wrap and I wrap. And you keep wrapping. Just like that, until you get as many wraps on there as you want. I usually do about 100, 120 wraps, and then I cut it. So I'm gonna wrap and wrap and wrap so that it's not so finicky on camera, and then I'll show you how I cut it. Okay, I'm gonna stop there to show you, but I just keep winding round and round and round. No rhyme or reason to it. I don't make my rows straight, and I don't pay too much attention. I just keep winding. And then you take your scissors. It does not matter where you choose to make your cut. You don't have to go up on the top here. You don't have to, be specific where you cut. You just need to make one. I just go right down the middle and make one slice. And the reason is because you're only making one cut, so it doesn't matter where you cut it. It's gonna be, your fringe is gonna all be the same length. Except for your end piece, that's always a little bit longer, and the one on the other end is either a little bit longer or a little bit shorter too. And you just won't use those. So then you take your cardboard out. You've got all your beautiful fringes, just like made so fast. I'll just tell you, when I put my fringes on, after they're all added, I don't worry about the fact that one is a little tiny bit longer than the other. Like if your ends are a little bit uneven throughout your blanket, as long as it's not drastic, I like the loose, uneven look of it. So there you go. There's a whole pile of fringes there, and then we're gonna start. I'll show you how I put them on my blanket. Okay, with the right side of your blanket up, that's how I do it. What I do is I go into every stitch where the wide part of the stitch is up. So again, you can space it however you like, really. I just am very particular. I guess maybe sometimes too particular, but the wide part of the V, if you see the stitch that I'm pointing at, the wide part is here. That's the stitch I'm gonna go into. And then I go into the next one that's got the wide end at the bottom, and the next one. So really there's 2 bars between every stitch. So I'm gonna put my fringe there, and then I'm gonna count 1, and that, we're talking about 2s a lot in this video, aren't we? 2 bars, and then there's this stitch that I'm gonna put it in. And then there's those next 2 bars, and then the next one, and I do that right across so that my fringe is an even width. Even spacing right across. So that's where I place them. So then I take my fringe and I put it in half, and then I hold it with my finger through the, where's my crochet hook? Let me just find my crochet hook. With my finger through the loop like that. Then from the back side, from the wrong side, of your project to the right side. You go from the wrong side up. So it's coming up into the right side. That's why you have your right side facing up. You grab that little loop that's on your finger, you pull it through, then you take your hook off, put your fingers between that loop, grab the 2 yarn ends and pull. Now the reason why you want to make sure that you're going from the bottom up is because this little bar that goes over your fringe as you make it is all on the right side. So you don't have the wrong side of the fringe on the right side of your project. So everything is uniform and done correctly, and looks just absolutely beautiful. So I'm gonna put my yarn in half, I'm gonna put my finger over it, I'm gonna count 1, 2 bars, or just go into that one where the wide space of the stitch is going down. Pull it through, take my hook off, put my finger through, pull those 2 yarn ends through and pull it tight. And I've got my fringe. Now because you measured them on that cardboard, they're all pretty much the same length. Again, some are just a little bit jagged, like it's a little jagged, but I love that look actually. If you picked one and for some reason it's a little bit longer, then in the end when you smooth them out, then I would cut it off to be reasonably the same length. But that's how you put your fringe on. So go ahead and do that all the way down. Then I'm going to take my mid-tone color. I'm not going to do that on camera, but I'm going to take my mid-tone color and I'm going to just put 2 or 3, not many, I'm just going to put 2 or 3 on each panel, just to add a little touch of color. I may or I may not do that. You'll see that on the finished project. I haven't decided yet, but I think I might do that. Take the light blue and just put 2 or 3 on each panel and see what that looks like. Okay, so that's how you add your fringe. And once you're done that, then your project will be complete, and you can be very, very proud of the beautiful blanket that you've made. So thanks for following me through on this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and that you're very proud of the project that you have made. Please post it on your groups that we're all on Facebook. There's a couple groups that I'm sure that we're all a part of. When you get your blankets finished, please post them so that we can all see your beautiful work, okay? And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do so. I would appreciate that very much. I also have another channel where I read, it's called Storytime with Nana, and I will link that in the description below. If you have little kids who like to listen to stories, then I would love it if you would subscribe to that channel as well. All right, my friends, take care. Thanks for following me on this video, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next one. Okay, bye-bye.